My name is Stacy. I am a nursing major and I'm going to the University of Portland.
I'm Parker English. I am in the College of Engineering and my major is Operations Research and Information Engineering.
Hi, I'm Kyle. I'm in the Cal School at Cornell and my major is Communications.
Hi, I'm Anya. I'm in Arts and Sciences at Cornell and my major is Information Science and Economics.
I really like their curriculum and their direct entry nursing program. They also have a nice environment and small classes. I like how the class sizes are small because you have, it's easier to make connections and it's easier to get to know your teacher and how they teach. I just find it better that way for me.
I chose to go to Cornell because the programs at Cornell were most fit to my needs and what I wanted to get out of a major. I know I wanted to major in a engineering business hybrid, which is what my major is, and most colleges don't have something like that. Some of the UCs do, a few of the Ivies do, but Cornell overall was just the one that most fit what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I decided to come to Cornell because I really like their mission of one person, any study, and I like how diverse the colleges are and how many different majors you can choose from. Also, I just kind of wanted to get out of the Bay Area.
I chose Cornell because coming to college, I was pretty unsure about what I wanted to do, and I still am. I felt like here, you have a lot of options about what you can pursue, and there's always time to decide, and lots of directions you can go into it. And I like the vibes. Yeah.
So basically, if you do pre-nursing at most state schools or UCs, you have to basically do your general ed for 2 years, and then you have to take a test called it's like TEAS or something, which basically gets you into the nursing program. But when you do a direct entry program, you don't have to take that test, and you just go straight in, and then you start taking nursing programs or nursing classes right when you start your freshman year.
My SAT was actually 1490. My GPA was a 4.7, and I have a long list of I did 14 extracurriculars, so I think that was a big component in my application process. I had an internship, a job. I did a lot of outside of school tutoring as well as inside school tutoring. I was in a bunch of clubs, DECA, business club, math club, stuff like that. So yeah, my extracurricular list is one of the major components of my missions. So.
I guess my stats are, I got a 1530 on the SAT. My weighted GPA is a 4.3, and I think also extracurriculars play the biggest part because I did a bunch. For example, I co-founded the FBLA branch at my school. I play volleyball and also coach volleyball. I had an internship with the district attorney at Alameda, and I did a bunch of clubs in school and worked outside of school as well.
My SAT was also 1530, twins. I think on a 4.8 scale, my GPA was a 4.5. I played volleyball. I also coached volleyball. I was part of a history research program. They made me write a 52-page paper, and it was a grant, so it's technically a scholarship. What else did I do? I was part of art club. I did a lot of art. I had an internship last summer for this app website thing that tracked wildfires around the world, and it was an alert system for California residents mainly.
Going out of state is definitely out of my comfort zone, but I think it'll be a really good experience just because you kind of get to explore a new environment and get to know different people, and you kind of start a new life there. I mainly chose to go out of state because I thought it would be good for me and for me to grow as an individual. And I know a few people are going out of state, but a lot of times people will choose to go out of state because of the schools. A lot of different schools offer a lot of different things, and it's really up to the individual. to choose because staying in state is also a really good option. Like we said, the prices are definitely different. It really varies from what school you go to. Like private schools out of state, they still cost the same for in-state and out of state. So like when you go to private school, it doesn't really matter. But like if you go to like a public school, like University of Washington, like their out of state prices definitely a lot higher than in-state. And I know it's like if you technically live in a state for 2 years, you're considered in-state student. So it really depends on that too. If you like once you live in say Washington for 2 years, I think you won't have to pay the out-of-state tuition anymore. But that definitely varies from school to school. My school is semester, so we just started like 2 weeks ago. It's been hard. It's tough because like everyone else starts school like a month later, but it's like slower pace. So you don't when you take quarter systems, it goes by faster. So it ends at the same time, but it just starts different times.
So here at Cornell, we do semesters with technically there's a small period, like a 3-week winter period. And then of course there's a summer class, but they call it semester because the main 2 periods, fall and spring, are just laid out as in the semester, where we have finals at the end of December and then finals at the end of May.
So while I'm there, I'm going to do work study, which is basically you basically work 4 hours a week, and then the school pays for like your tuition. And I'm planning on joining like IM sports clubs, and a lot of like volunteering nursing clubs they have there are pretty good. So I plan to do those.
I am planning to join clubs in the future. Right now with COVID, clubs would be on Zoom. So I haven't found any clubs that really speak to me as of now, but I'm sure in the future I will definitely join some clubs.
I'm planning on joining the club volleyball team at Cornell and maybe like a couple law-related clubs.
I also want to play club volleyball. I also want to try journalism, and the newspaper here is really good, so I think I want to try that out. And maybe a project team. And project teams are kind of like small groups where you like work on like a tech-based kind of project idea.
It's not like serious like college sports like D1 or D2, where you play for the school, but you can play like it's kind of like a club. Like you'll play like tournaments with like other schools maybe or other people, and it's just like a more recreational thing rather than like playing for your college. And it's not like mandatory, so you don't have to go. You can join whenever you want. Sometimes they'll have a fee like for like I don't know, buses or uniforms. But it really depends on your school and what you want to do. No, it's never too late because it's better late than never. I started mainly volunteering outside when I was a junior actually. I volunteered at the local hospital and also at a pediatrics office. There's a lot of like outside opportunities that might be more beneficial towards whatever major you want to go into. So like for me, nursing was what I was trying to reach for, and volunteering at a hospital definitely helped show that I really wanted to pursue nursing. So definitely like volunteering towards where you want to, like the field that you want to go to, will help.
I think something that's really important to think about with junior year and senior year, and then once you get to college and everything, is, as you said, balance, right? Because if you're focusing all your time into your schoolwork, that's good, right? You might end up with a really good GPA, but then you may not feel like you belong in the place where you are. I feel like it's really important to have a good social group as well as being academically inclined, because in the future, in the real world, right, once you get a job, you have to have both of these skill sets. If you come out with just having social skills and not the intellectual skills, then that doesn't work well. If you come out with just the intellectual skills and not the social skills, that doesn't work well either. So I think the important thing for your junior year is taking this like one step at a time, putting things in perspective so that you're not overstressing yourself, and just thinking about having a good balance. And if you get a B or something like that, that's not going to be the end of the world. So
it's gonna sound lame, but really make the most of your high school experience. Once you get to college, you're on your own. The things you do have consequences, you know. High school is like the last place you can mess up with the least amount of consequences. So I would say take as many risks as you can in high school before you come to college, and like you have to really focus up on becoming an adult. And also, I guess to manage stress, just realizing that everyone's in the same boat as you, and that you're all going through this process like together in a sense, because it's not just you that's stressed and like freaking out, it's everyone. So we'll get through it.
Yeah, I think one really important thing is that you have to remember that to like do good, you have to feel good all the time. So like if you're like up at like 1 a.m. studying for a test, like you have to consider if it's worth it or not. And like one thing that comes with growing up is learning what to prioritize. So sometimes you're just gonna have to like set aside other things to prioritize like your mental health or like another class or something. Like it's not the end of the world if you're not great at everything. You just need to stay focused with what you care most about, what's the most important to you.
For at least for my college admissions, I applied early decision to Cornell. So I applied to just Cornell and then 4 UCs. I was going to apply to more if I didn't get into Cornell, but I did early decision, which is a big thing. I would say, at least for the college admissions part, I would recommend starting your apps during the summer. I know it's already past summer for like a lot of the juniors, or I guess the seniors writing college apps, then it may be a little too late for this advice, but I would say at least for juniors, start writing your apps during the summer, because once you get to school and school starts ramping up, you're not going to want to have that extra stress, I guess. So if you start in your college apps and get everything dialed in during the summer, then it will be super helpful once you get towards, like if your school starts becoming overwhelming. So
I would agree with Parker a lot, because especially for me, I actually applied to Cornell regular decision, and I applied to a bunch of other schools. I applied to all the UCs, and I applied to I think a total of around 15 schools. But I think the most important thing is finishing all your apps like during the first few weeks of school or even in the summer. I think I finished most of my apps and submitted them right at the end of summer, and that I think that's the most important thing, because for like the 3 apps that I still had during the school year that I didn't submit in the summer, you can definitely see in the essays that the quality wasn't there because I was focusing on school as well as the essays. So I think the most important thing would be really use that summer to like your advantage, and also I guess like winter break.
Yeah, more like on the actual concrete essay writing. At my high school, we had some like college counselors that give us advice. What they said is for like more private schools like Ivy Leagues, etc. They really want to see your personality rather than like have you like flex your achievements like inside the actual essays. And then for public schools like UCs, they want to see you like actually talk about what you've done and like why it makes you a good candidate to like academically perform at the school. And another thing would be, like as Parker said, start early. And I also applied ED to Cornell and got in right away, so I didn't need to like do regular applications. But from what I've heard, like it might be helpful to gear your essays towards schools. Like I know you have a personal statement that you apply to, that you send into like most schools, but like if you like focus on each school's like kind of mission and like what they value in an applicant, like you might want to like structure your essays, just like make them different a little bit, just so that like you seem appealing to the specific school that you're applying to.
So when it comes to the nursing program, like some schools will have supplemental like applications that like ask for additional essays or additional letter of recommendations. I know like UCLA will do that, and you do have to provide a separate application. But I'm not really sure how that works now because the UC system is a little more different. Usually like once you apply for that major, they'll like send you an email saying that you need a supplemental application, and then you'll just use that to fill it out, and then make sure you look at like how many teacher letter of recommendations you need and like how many essays and stuff like that. And that really like helps you get everything done in time crunch, because it's better to like start finding teachers and asking them for letter of recommendations now rather than later. I try to start asking like right when senior year started, just so they have enough time to write it, because it's due in December, I think most applications are due like November, December-ish. So start asking them as soon as possible. Just because like if one teacher has like many people asking for letter of recs, they might not be able to get to it. If you use like Common App or like the CSUs, well, the CSUs and UCs don't like necessarily need teacher recommendations, but like when you use the Common App, they'll have a section where you type in your teacher's email and it sends them an email for them to be able to attach a teacher recommendation. They'll send like an email to your teacher and then they can add it to your file, but you can't access that letter of recommendation. A lot of them usually will accept outside sources depending on who it is. I don't think they'll accept any from like your family members or your friends, stuff like that. But like if it's like a mentor or like
a coach, maybe.
Yeah, they'll accept that usually. Private schools, definitely you need one recommendation from a counselor, and then there are other optionals. So like you can get one from your teacher and get one from like an outside source. But for private schools, 100% you need, I don't know if it's 100%, but like it's very likely that you will need a letter of recommendation from your guidance counselor. Whereas like for UC CSUs, you don't.
I would say that is totally fine. I guess I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but a lot of people don't. I'd say actually most people probably don't know exactly what they want to do. Like I'm not even sure if I will stick with my major, but that's what college is for. College is really for just finding out who you are and what you want to do. It's actually, I think one of the best things about college is that in high school, let's say your school has 2,000 people or 1,000 people. In your class is like 500, 250. Everyone kind of knows each other, so you have to fit this social ladder. But in college, there's like, at least at Cornell, there's like 26,000 students. So no one's trying to fit this social hierarchy. They can just find out who they truly are and then find out what they want to do. And the extensive amount of clubs that most of these colleges have really allow you to find out exactly what you want your major to be. And so yeah, if you don't know what you want your major to be, that is totally fine. Just, yeah.
I would say that if you don't know what your major to be, at least try to figure out like the vicinity, for example, so you can apply to that specific college, because changing your major in college or in university is really easy, whereas transferring to a whole separate college within that university is a lot tougher. So I advise people to, look into the majors that are offered in, for example, the College of Arts and Sciences versus the College of Engineering versus the College of Business versus the College of Life Sciences. And I would say, if you have a general idea of what you want to do or what college you want to apply to the easiest major to get into at that college, because at the end of the day, you're just trying to get into a good university, and once you're in, you can start figuring out who you are, like Parker said. So I think getting your foot in the door is the most important thing. So I would advise applying into a major that isn't as competitive, but still in the same college as your dream or like what you think you want to do, and working from there.
Mm-hmm. Like what Kyle said, it's usually helpful to figure out what college suits you more rather than like the actual major. But you also have to keep in mind that like sometimes colleges will tell you that it's really easy to switch a major, but in reality, if you're in arts and sciences but you want like a CS degree in engineering, like it's going to be really difficult to switch like into the engineering out of arts and sciences. So like you have to like keep that in mind before you just assume that like you can like jump between colleges and stuff. It's difficult to do, but you can stay in very easily.
So I really wish I knew about dual enrollment earlier. So basically what dual enrollment is you take community college classes while you're still in high school. It's completely free. You just have to fill out an application and then let your counselor know and let them approve it before you go to the community college. So basically you're allowed like any community college, like Mission College, Foothill College, De Anza, Evergreen, wherever you want. Most students like to take it in the summer just because they have more time. But for me, I only took one course actually. My senior year, statistics. I think it's like statistics. So basically, first thing you'll do is like go to research it and then fill out the dual enrollment form, and then they'll send it to your counselor, and your counselor will approve it. Once they approve it, they will send you to like whatever community college you go to, and then they'll handle it from there. I personally took classes online just because it's easier. You don't have to travel to like wherever community college you are going to, but it's still an option to go to that school, if that makes sense. I really liked it because it gives you college credit while you're in high school. So if you say you didn't want to take AP Bio, but there's an introduction of bio class at a community college, you could take that, and if you pass that class, you basically get college credit, so you don't have to take the AP exam. So it's like basically equivalent to each other. And I found it really helpful because most of the classes will transfer to college, and like some colleges don't take 3s and only take 4 and 5s. So if you get a 3, it's kind of like, it depends on what college you go to. So as long as you pass your community college class, you'll get credit no matter what. And then that transfers over, and you'll have to take less GEs when you're in college. So basically for that, I took a few courses over the summer as well, so I knocked off a lot of GEs I needed to take. You definitely do need to research it because, like, luckily for me, like, I didn't know at first that you needed to be transferable to your colleges. But luckily for me, it was transferable. So you definitely should research it because some classes won't transfer. It really depends on each college curriculum. But that's just because I go to a private school, so like private schools are a little more tighter on those. But I think USTs and CSU should be okay, but you should definitely research it just in case. And it really depends on your major because some majors will require like a more in-depth course, which some community colleges don't provide. So you definitely should look into like definitely your major and your core requirements. I think that also varies school to school. For my school, it doesn't raise my tuition at all. They will make you like maintain a 3.5 if you want to go over 18 credits. It does give you leverage because then you have more degrees basically. So then you'll have like a BSN, which is like a Bachelor of Nursing Science, and then you have a psychology one, and then you have a minor. So it kind of like puts you above others because you have more knowledge, I guess. But it really depends on what you plan to do, because if you do like psychology and minor in neuroscience, you do have other options. So you don't necessarily have to become a nurse. You could do other things because you have those credentials. Like a lot of impacted majors, like even though like the acceptance rate for that school may seem high, when it comes to like impacted majors like nursing, it's actually it's like much lower than the acceptance rate. So like my school's acceptance rate was like maybe like 70-something%, but in reality like the nursing program was more like 20 or 30%, just because it's like super impacted and a lot of people apply. It's hard to switch into nursing after you have if you apply to school for a certain major and you switch into it. It's a lot harder to do that than to actually state that as your major, but a lot of schools don't directly have a nursing program. They have like pre-health or like pre-nursing.
I would say yes. Well, yes and no. The A-to-G requirements are pretty much the baseline. So exceeding them, if you want to go to a school which is, you know, some of the top universities in the country, then it probably is recommended to exceed the A-to-G requirements. But I would say it's just the basic, like, I guess high school requirements to graduate. But I would say as long as you have that baseline, the main component in an admissions process is your extracurriculars and your essays. I mean, as well as, you know, your GPA and SAT. But I actually, when I was doing my college admissions, I read something about how like the percentages that matter for each thing. And SAT and GPA are a lot less than you would think. Like you should have like a baseline like GPA and SAT to get into a school like around the average. But once you're at that point, everyone's pretty much the same applying to these colleges. So your essays and your extracurriculars are really a huge factor. So I would say the A-to-G requirements, as long as you meet that baseline, aren't necessarily going to be a big factor in your admissions.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that when you apply for colleges, they tell you to list the classes you've taken or you're planning to take. It's just the basic goal of that is just to show the universities that you're willing to take that extra step to pursue like a higher education. If you sign up for harder classes that exceed the A through G requirements, it shows the university that you're willing to learn and you're passionate about learning. So I would say that you should exceed the A through G requirements if you're really aiming for a top university, but like only to the extent at which it helps your major. For example, for languages, I took the bare minimum because I knew that was not going to be a factor in what I want to do in university. But like if you're in an engineering major, you would most likely try to exceed the math requirements, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think what colleges are looking for is like not only how well you fit into the school, but also like they don't want to admit you if you're gonna like struggle throughout school. So if the university like it's like hard to succeed academically, they want to see you succeed in like harder classes in high school as well. And I think, yeah, you definitely have to prioritize, like if you know what you want to do in college, you should definitely prioritize those kinds of classes in high school. But at the same time, you want to show them that you're like open to learning and that you're diverse, like interested in a lot of subjects, because the love of learning is really what it's all about.
So I feel like private schools are definitely more involved just because there's smaller population, so there's better student to faculty ratios. I think at most private schools it's like 20-1 ratio, whereas in UCs it's a lot more in like states just because they're like overpopulated. So because of that, they have more resources. Like the counselors definitely will help you more. Not that they don't help you at UCs or CSUs, but it's easier to get in contact with them and to meet with them to talk about your schedules and your requirements. They also have a lot more like academic resources, like study centers. They're just more funded, so it seems like it's better. But that really just varies from school to school. At first, I was also like kind of not leaning towards private colleges because I thought they were just really expensive. But I looked more into it, and they do give a lot of scholarships and grants. So basically, your FAFSA will kind of tell the colleges about grants, the financial aid of privates. So you get offered grants based on your need basis, and then they also offer you a lot of scholarships based on like your grades, your extracurriculars, whatever they think is like fits for you. And based on that, they actually like some schools may say it's like most private schools around like $60K, depending on which private school you go to and how much scholarships they offer you. It could be cut down by more than half, which is like one of the main reasons I decided to go is because they gave a lot of scholarships and grants, so it cut down my price a lot. There's also outside scholarships, so it's outside scholarships and the scholarships your school gives you. So those are like kind of really different. If you apply for outside scholarships, there's like you can find some with like different deadlines. So there's some that like deadline is January, February, whatever time of month it is, and you can find those pretty easily. Like I know like some big companies like Coca-Cola or like McDonald's, they'll give like really big scholarships. You just have to apply for them and maybe write an essay. When it goes to the school, you don't really have to apply for them. They kind of just give it to you based on your achievements, I guess. Once you get your acceptance letter, they'll send you like kind of like a financial aid / like tuition list, and it basically tells you like how much grants and scholarships you get, and then they subtract that from your tuition and they tell you like the final price what you'd have to pay. Meal plans and like food, dorm accessories, those are all like expenses that are out of pocket just because like a lot of times they won't cover your dorming fees. They also have like insurance for your dorms, which is like a good thing to know because if you get something stolen from your dorm room, you can always have that insurance to cover it, and they'll like insure you back whatever you lost. And once again, it goes by like price. So if you want to cover $5,000 worth of things or like $10,000, that just depends in the price ranges. If you want to drive in college,
Oh yeah,
that's added expense.
parking, right?
Parking passes cost a lot. And I know like if you go like some states, UCs and privates won't let you have a car your first year in college, and you'll be allowed to your second year of college. it really just depends. And parking passes I heard cost like a few $100s maybe for a semester. And you're not like really guaranteed a spot that's near like your dorm or your classes.
So I guess it was an interesting process because I think for my first, for the overall, my Common App essay, it started out being around 800 words and you have to get it down to 650, which 650 when you're writing flies by super quickly. So I would recommend just writing your essay out how you want it to be. So even if it passes the 650, don't worry for that first draft. You get it to like 800. I mean, try not to get it to like 1,000, but like 800, something like that, 900. You're only a few hundred words over. And then you're gonna have to go back through and then, I guess, correct it multiple times, and then use people around you. Everyone's in the same boat. So if you can have peers correct your work, and to shorten it, try to think about what's really important. Take a sentence. What my college counselor told me was that take a sentence or a paragraph and think, if I got rid of this paragraph, would the message still be the same? Would the people reading your admission, would they look at you and think of you differently? So yeah, I would just say look at certain sentences and words if the word count is over and just think, does that affect my overall essay?
Yeah, I think that word counts definitely tell you or are indicative of what kind of essay that specific university wants you to write. For example, the UC essays, I believe the word count's like 250 or 300. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but that just shows you that the university just wants you to basically list off your achievements and be real empirical with the data you're able to provide. Whereas, for example, like some private schools or like some Common App essays where they give you 650 words as a limit, they really want you to get more personal and they want to see your personality more. So I guess it was never an issue for me writing with a word limit because I actually struggled to hit it rather than needing to cut down. But I think just treat it as like a personal writing assignment. Don't treat it as a college admissions essay. Treat it as like how you would answer this question if someone asked you this in person, like a friend asked you this in person and you were just answering them.
Yeah, sometimes it's helpful to like, before you start writing, you want to like get down like the ideas that you value the most in the essay so you don't like overwrite. And another thing is like, if you like tend to write in flowery language, like you might want to cut down on that so that you actually get more content into the essay. So like no adverbs or like extensive like adjective use, but yeah.
So the Common App is kind of like a website source, I guess, where you will input your Common App essay, which I think is like 650 words. So you just type in all your information. So like whatever your address, your grades, your SAT scores, whatever you want to add on in your essays, and then it will save all that under your file. And then you just add schools that you want to apply to. And then basically they'll send in whatever you have on there. So like your extracurriculars and your information that you just basically saved from previously, and then you just send it to the school. Like it's just an easier way to apply to more schools. And I think it mainly uses like private schools. I know I used my Common App a lot. I actually applied to maybe like 6 schools through the Common App. It's just a lot easier because you don't have to like retype everything multiple times when you apply to all these different schools. But you definitely have to be careful about like including everything on your Common App because there were some like extracurriculars that I left out, and luckily I caught it and then I was able to send it again to my college. And also try to keep in contact with the school that you might want to go to, because like if they like kind of see you more active in like, I don't know, asking questions and being involved in it, they might like keep a tab on you.
Like you just email them or something?
Yeah. Or like visit the campus, stuff like that. Then they'll like kind of like, oh, if you're actually interested in going to our school, we might like give you a little leverage.
I think for me, because my SAT was a little bit on I guess technically it was higher than the average Cornell, but it's still a little bit on the lower side for making me stand out. I think for me, my essays were a big thing, as well as I had an extensive list of extracurriculars. As I was talking about, the extracurriculars and the essays are the biggest components. And I would honestly say your essays are pretty huge when it comes to like showing who you are, because colleges, they want people who are going to do well, but they also want people who are hard workers, who can put in the effort, because a lot of people, they can be naturally just super smart, but if they're not willing to put in the effort, then the college isn't necessarily going to want them. So I think it's important in your essays to show that you are willing to put in that work, as well as use, like, I guess in my comment app, I used a lot of analogies and metaphors, and so using things like that, I guess. I don't know, I'm rambling, but pretty much just, I would say, for me, essays and extracurriculars and those.
I guess especially for the private schools, don't just brag. I know a lot of, or from what I've seen through college counseling, I see that a lot of parents, when they read their kids' essays, always just try to force their kids to add more like achievements in there. And like at a point it gets old. So I wouldn't treat your college essay as a brag sheet. Definitely talk about achievements that you had, but make sure that you're passionate about those achievements and the colleges can see that you're passionate about those achievements, not just listing off a brag sheet, because that's very unappealing to most universities. And I would say that when you're writing your essays, if you have a college counselor or if you're using the school provider counselor, they know best. Like, just because your parents want you to brag a lot doesn't mean you should listen to them. Like, there are people who are paid for a living to get you into college. I would say listen to them. And I would say try to be unique in your essays, in the sense that I think showing passion through your writing is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. I think specifically for Cornell, they have like they only have 2 essays. It's like your personal statement and why Cornell. And like a lot of private schools will have like the why of the school question. And like, especially if you're applying regular, like you really have to show them that you're really into the school. So like you have to do your research. You gotta like make it pretty detailed, like tell them why you want to go there. So I think that's a really important part of the essays. And like they ask you it for a reason. You shouldn't just glaze over it. And I think in your personal essay, you should honestly just like make it really down to earth. Like it doesn't have to be a really big thing. Like my story was really, really simple. It's just like, you just have to reveal something about you as a person that would make the university admit you. And another thing, maybe like, I don't know how this applies to everyone, if this applies to everyone, but like sometimes you're like, what you're interested in will line up with like you'll tell the university that you're interested in something like in the essay, and then like your extracurriculars will like line up with it, and so they can see like that you're like connecting the dots between like what you talk about and what you do. So that's pretty important.
I wish I was more involved in like clubs with the school. I did more volunteering like outside of school, which is like also really good because it does help you stand out a little more. But I wish I was more involved in school and like did more leadership positions within the school. I think playing a sport definitely was really fun, and it was a different experience than playing like, you know, in middle school, or definitely different from college. I definitely do wish I tried more in high school, because it is really important. Like people say that like your freshman and sophomore year don't really matter, but like I think colleges mostly look at your overall GPA, not like your senior or junior year. It just really depends. And also like if you do take AP classes, I think most colleges look more at your unweighted GPA than they do your weighted. So definitely keep that in mind. To sum it up, basically, private schools aren't as expensive as they seem. You will get grants on need basis, and they will offer you like a good amount of scholarship depending on your achievements and how they feel that you will do at their school. Definitely don't hesitate to apply, because a lot of private schools, if you do email them or like seem like you're involved, they will send you a free waiver. And I mean, I applied to some schools that set fee waivers, and it's just nice to know that you have options. And yeah, 100% definitely look into it because it's not as expensive as it seems.
I think that a very important thing, for at least something that I wish I took more into account when I was applying, it's like don't buy into the stress. I don't understand what the need is for a lot of students to brag about how stressed they are, or brag about like how hard they're trying. And I think that it creates a very unhealthy atmosphere where people are like, dude, I only got like 3 hours of sleep last night. Oh, lucky, I only got 4. Like, no one cares. In reality, the college admission process is not as stressful as you think. It's just writing a couple essays. Don't try to make it seem more stressful than it is. It really just comes down to you've already put in the work because it's your last years in high school. You've already put in the work. Now it's just time to show the universities what you've done. So I guess just don't stress about it too much and just put yourself on the paper, and if the university is a good fit for you, they will accept you.
Yeah, and I think, as Kyle was talking about, mental health is a big thing. Because if you think about it, 30 years down the line, is it going to matter what university you went to? Maybe here or there slightly, but not in the overall. The main thing a university is good for is your first job out of college. But then once you get to after that point, then it all pretty much is up for grabs. So I would say if you're stressing super hard about, I think actually, if you don't get into a university, I wouldn't take it personally whatsoever. These college admissions people are reading thousands and thousands and thousands of essays, and you could have just caught them at a bad time. They could be, I actually read a study where if college admissions people are much more likely to let you into their school if they've just eaten lunch. So random things like that can just make or break you. I mean, make or break like your admission, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I wouldn't get too, I know it's a big deal getting into college, it is, but I wouldn't get too stressed over the little things because overall it's not gonna matter too much for you. So
yeah, in terms of like getting like your scores, your SAT scores, and your GPA, I think what colleges are really looking for is not like the exact number that you're at, but like the range that you're at, kind of. So like if you got a pretty good score in your SAT, and then you want to like try again to see if like you can get it like 10 points higher, like I'd really consider if it's worth it or not, because chances are you're probably already in the range that like you can do your best at. And if you think that you've like pretty much hit your peak, then like maybe just stop there and save yourself the effort.
Like one last quick thing would be when you're writing your admissions essays, once again, you have to show passion, but I think a really important component that helped me was showing how my pursuit of a higher education would eventually benefit society. I don't think colleges want you to just talk about what you're going to do and what kind of job you're going to get and how it's going to benefit you. They want to see the bigger implications of accepting you. Like, talk about how your specific major or how your career path is going to give back and help others. I think that's really important, actually.
I think you definitely need to research what college you want to go to and what major you want to pursue in your future. My advice is definitely to research, make sure that you're comfortable, and if you can, try to visit the schools and do things that are out of your comfort zone that may help you experience things and help you write a better essay. Definitely focus on your essay and try to start as soon as possible, because if you don't like it, you can always scratch it rather than doing it last minute and throwing something together, because your essays and your application is a really big part of your future, and what you choose to do kind of determines the rest of your life.
This concludes this section special. Thanks to Stacy,
Parker, Kyle, and Anya
for joining us, and stay tuned for the next episodes. Bye.
Bye.